On a scale of 1 to 10, the chances of massive wars in the world today is 100. They're already ongoing in Ukraine, in Gaza, Israel, and so on. The global polity is heated up and may soon reach its boiling point. The US, Russia, China, and Iran are heavily involved in these tensions. A conflict breaking out involving only a subset of these nations could easily result in nuclear war, and would definitely require powerful, heavy long-range missiles ready to dig craters on enemy soil. This is where for the US the new precision strike missile comes. In it is the most powerful missile of its kind, with an arsenal that would cost over $1 billion to build, and while its capabilities seem futuristic, the U.S. Army has already begun receiving deliveries of the missile. In this video, we discuss everything crucial about this new missile, including its delivery to the Army, its capabilities, its potential successors, and its mighty powerful predecessor, the ATACMS. The MGM-140 Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS for short, is a tactical ballistic missile capable of shifting the tides of war in favor of whichever force wields it. The 13T long, 24 inches wide, 3,690 pounds nuclear-capable missile can deliver a cluster munition, or a 500 pounds high explosive warhead once fired. The $1 million missile flies as high as 160,000 feet to a top speed, in excess of Mach 3, to precisely strike a target anywhere within a 190 m radius. The missile's precision comes from a GPS-aided inertial navigation guidance system that ensures the missile strikes its target spot-on, or at least within 30 feet of it. All of these make the ATACMS missile the ideal recipe for making a meal of targets many miles away. Its effectiveness on the battlefield has best been advertised in the Ukraine war, which has resulted in the ATACMS becoming something of a household name. And the most interesting part about that is that it was expected. So expected, in fact, that the U.S. government was initially reluctant to give ATACMS missiles to Ukraine because the missiles are so powerful. They would give Ukraine the ability to strike deep into Russian territory, which would escalate the war, much to the displeasure of everyone. But with the war escalating despite the absence of the missile in Ukraine, the U.S. government eventually gave in and shipped out 20 ATACMS missiles to Ukraine. Almost instantly their impact was felt, particularly when they wreaked havoc on a Russian helicopter base in October. The attacks can be launched from an M142 HIMARS, which can hold one at a time, or the M270 MLRS, which can hold two at a time. Since entering service in the 1980s, the ATACMS has remained the biggest long-range vehicle-launched missile of the U.S. Army. Huge and lethal as the ATACMS is, however, it's been over 30 years since the missile was introduced into service. In that period, Russia introduced the Iskander-A missile with 26% better precision, 160% greater range, and 196% higher top speed than the ATACMS. And while explosions are just as red-hot in the 21st century as they were in the 20th century, there's simply so much more that modern technological advancements could enable missiles to do today. As a result, the ATACMS, after decades of dominating the skies, finally has a successor, a more powerful big brother of some sort. That's everything the ATACMS is and more. This new successor is the Precision Strike Missile, known simply as PrSM. According to a December 8 statement from the U.S. Army, the service has recently accepted its first fully operational PrSM missile, the first of an entire fleet of missiles designed to replace the Cold War-era ATACMS in the long-range precision fire role. Like the ATACMS, PrSM will be fired from the HIMARS and M270 MLRS launchers, but the new missile is far better streamlined and more portable. So the launch vehicles have double the capacity than they do with the ATACMS, meaning 2 PrSMs as opposed to 1 ATACMS for the HIMARS vehicle, and 4 PrSMs as opposed to 2 ATACMS for the M270 MLRS. Despite its smaller dimensions and a lighter 200 pounds warhead, the PrSM is designed to have the same destructive power as an ATACMS with its 500 pounds warhead. While that may sound ambitious, it is simply the kind of improvements that technological advancements enable. They also enable the PrSM's multimode seeker to listen for the radio broadcasts of target radars and communication systems. home in on them, and then use imaging infrared to identify the target on the ground and destroy it. The seeker also allows PrISM to track and engage moving targets, something attacks couldn't do. The PrISMs would also fly significantly farther than the attacks can, although the PrISM's exact range remains a fortune teller's best guess. According to Lockheed Martin, it is at least 500 mi, more than double that of the attacks. The operational PrISMs that the Army reportedly received are baseline Increment 1 variants, which have only a unitary high-explosive warhead. The missiles are precision-guided but are designed to engage static targets only. Only the planned Increment 2 missiles will feature a multimode seeker and be capable of engaging moving targets. Increment 3 is stated to revolve around further unspecified enhanced payloads. This could include new unitary warheads better optimized for certain target sets or cluster munitions or some other novel payload. Then there is the Increment 4, which will give the PrISM missile a boost in range from whatever it is now to some 620 meters according to the Army's budget documents. The service plans to eventually acquire at least 3,986 Increment 1 PrISMs, each at a unit cost of $3.5 million. 350% more costly than the attacks missiles. The numbers of planned Increment 2 OS, 3S, and 4s are currently unknown, but depending on the oneness of the increment sets, it may be possible to convert Increment 1 missiles into other increment sets. This is likely because the Army would want the best versions of this new missile it plans to use for decades to come, especially when up against a powerful opponent like China. Since the PrISMs give the Army the capability to attack not only distant targets, such as enemy air bases and targets on islands, but even ships moving at sea, the Army sees PrISM as a key part of its long-range strategy and central to a future fight with China. Overcoming distance from base is the central problem in the Asian Pacific, a theater ruled by a massive continent and vast oceans. Long-range offensive and defensive missiles will allow the Army a land power in a theater with not a whole lot of land to contribute to the fight effectively. To do this, the Army has to forget about Abrams tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles, unless they learn how to swim and instead focus on another one of its core strengths, missiles. Therefore, the PrISM is a crucial response to an ever-evolving battlefield. But it isn't the only one. The entire PrISM family is part of a larger future long-range vision the Army has been working toward in recent years. The vision includes a new land-based launch system called Typhoon that is capable of firing SM-6 multipurpose missiles and Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. It also includes the Dark Eagle hypersonic missile being developed in cooperation with the U.S. Navy. And then there is the ground-based mid-course defense, which has been seeing a lot of action recently. One of these actions is a promising and interesting ballistic missile test, as the U.S. military continues to work on building an arsenal of heavy missiles that can wreak havoc on enemy targets. This service is also ensuring to build defense systems that can repel similar attacks from rivals. December 11, 2013 was a Monday that looked like every other Monday until it was time for the Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense System, or GMD system, to undergo some heavy testing. Led by a Missile Defense Agency and Boeing team, and also involving US Northern Command, the U.S. Space Force Space Launch Delta 30, and the U.S. Space Command Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense. The test, which was designated Flight Test Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense 12, or FG-12, was a major effort to demonstrate that the new and upgraded GMD system could now engage threats faster than was previously possible. The test revolved around a component of the GMD system known as the Ground-Based Interceptor, or GBI. The GBI is the lethal component of the GMD system designed to physically intercept and knock out ballistic missile threats to the U.S., while the ballistic missiles are in the space flight portion of their journey. To have the test simulate reality as closely as possible, the incoming ballistic missile threat mock-up had countermeasures to protect it like would be the case in a real-life scenario. The exact countermeasures used weren't disclosed, but the use of decoys being a common countermeasure in reality is a likely candidate. Still, despite the countermeasures and whatever else was standing in the way of the GMD system, the defense weapon was able to successfully intercept the incoming intermediate-range ballistic missile, so it's all cheers all round for the U.S. military. From the GMD system, which had a successful ballistic missile test, to the Atom, which continues to be a crucial tool for the U.S. and its allies. All the way to the Prism, which promises to dominate the long-range missile space for decades to come. The U.S. military continues to record incredible successes with its missiles, and to celebrate that feat, the U.S. military wants you to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like, so do that now, and thanks for watching.